The Summoning Circle. Prologue. In the secluded town of Ravenswood, whispers of dark rituals and forbidden magic had long been part of the local folklore. Nestled deep within an ancient forest, the town held many secrets, guarded by generations of residents who dared not speak of the past. Among the curious and the brave was Claire, a history student fascinated by the occult. Her interest would lead her to uncover a terrifying truth that lay hidden for centuries. Chapter 1. The Discovery. Claire spent her summer vacation in Ravenswood, staying at her grandmother's old house. While exploring the attic, she discovered a dusty, leather-bound journal. It belonged to her great-grandmother, Eliza, who had mysteriously disappeared decades ago. The journal was filled with notes on rituals, symbols, and dark incantations. Intrigued, Claire began to read, her curiosity piqued by the cryptic entries. One entry stood out, a detailed description of a summoning circle and a ritual to contact the shadow beings. Eliza had written about strange occurrences in Ravenswood and her attempt to harness the power of these beings. The last entry was abruptly cut off, as if Eliza had been interrupted. Determined to uncover the truth, Claire decided to recreate the ritual. Chapter 2. The Preparation. Claire gathered the necessary items listed in the journal: candles, chalk, ancient herbs, and a silver dagger. She found the perfect spot for the ritual deep in the forest, where old stones formed a natural circle. Under the cover of night, she set up the ritual site, meticulously following Eliza's instructions. She drew the summoning circle with chalk, placed the candles at precise points, and laid out the herbs in a pattern. As she stood in the center of the circle, holding the silver dagger, a sense of foreboding washed over her. The air grew colder, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Claire recited the incantation from the journal, her voice trembling. As she finished the last words, the candles flickered and the shadows around her seemed to come alive. Chapter 3. The Awakening. Suddenly, the wind picked up, howling through the trees. The shadows within the circle began to writhe and twist, forming into dark, humanoid shapes. Claire's heart pounded as she watched in horror. The shadow beings, as Eliza had called them, were real. They moved closer, their hollow eyes fixed on Claire. She could feel their cold presence seeping into her bones. One of the beings spoke, its voice a chilling whisper. "You have summoned us. What do you seek?" Claire, mustering all her courage, asked about her great-grandmother. The being laughed, a sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. Eliza sought power beyond her understanding. She paid the price, as will you. Chapter 4. The Bargain. The beings offered Claire a choice: join them in the shadows or face the same fate as Eliza. Desperate for answers and survival, Claire proposed a bargain. She would perform another ritual to strengthen their connection to the mortal world in exchange for her life and knowledge about Eliza. The beings agreed, their eyes gleaming with malice. They instructed Claire on the new ritual, which required a blood sacrifice. Reluctantly, she returned to her grandmother's house to prepare. She knew the consequences would be dire, but she was determined to uncover the truth and escape the being's grasp. Chapter 5. The Sacrifice. Claire gathered the materials for the second ritual, her hands trembling as she prepared the circle. She placed the silver dagger at the center and pricked her finger, letting a few drops of blood fall onto the chalk lines. The shadows appeared once more, their presence overwhelming. As she recited the incantation, the forest around her seemed to close in, the darkness growing thicker. Suddenly, a voice broke through the shadows. "Claire, stop." It was her grandmother, who had sensed the danger and followed her into the forest. "These beings are deceivers. They took Eliza, and they will take you too." Claire hesitated, the dagger poised above the circle. The shadow beings hissed, urging her to continue. Torn between fear and love, Claire made her decision. Chapter 6. The Confrontation. With a cry, Claire threw the dagger into the shadows. The beings shrieked in fury as the circle's power dissipated. Her grandmother rushed forward, pulling Claire out of the circle. The shadows writhed and twisted, unable to escape the circle's bounds. Claire's grandmother recited a banishing spell, forcing the beings back into the darkness. The forest fell silent once more, the oppressive weight of the shadows lifting. Claire clung to her grandmother, tears streaming down her face. She had come dangerously close to losing herself to the darkness, but her grandmother's love had saved her. Epilogue. Back at her grandmother's house, Claire burned the journal, vowing to never let the darkness touch her family again. The secrets of Ravenswood remained buried, and the town returned to its quiet existence. But Claire would never forget the terror she had faced, or the lesson she had learned. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed.